Alright, I've got the November, I think, Scrawlrbox. So I'm gonna open it up and see what we get. They always look a little bit rough just because they come all the way from the UK. Let's see, the candy, like a lemon drop. I'm seeing an eraser by Coom. Oh, I thought it was a red colored pencil. It's just a normal pencil by Lyra. Our list of items. Scrawlrbox sticker. Ooh, it's really pretty this month. Pink and yellow is one of my favorite combos. And Daler Rowney Aquafine Gouache. Looks like we have 6 different tubes. We have titanium white, portrait pink, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson hue. Ooh, that one's pretty. Cobalt blue hue, and ivory black. They actually gave us a blue, a yellow, and a red, so I can make so many more colors. For some reason, they always send like a blue and a red, and you can make blue, red, and purple, but now I can make the whole rainbow. I love gouache. It is like my favorite medium. They sent us an email, and the email was literally, "Don't worry, it's not broken." It's supposed to be like that. So we also have a Royal Talens Van Gogh 191 series brush. That is... Well, it's never gonna go back like that after I use it, because I will destroy the bristles. Art this month is by Riso-chan. It's beautiful. Huh, not very thick. This is pretty thin paper, actually. It's supposed to be just really good for gloss? Sure. It's made of... Ooh, it's a high alpha cellulose. Made using natural woolen felt. Interesting. Well, I wish it was a little thicker, but I'll take it. I'm gonna need a palette and water. Return of the World's Ugliest Water Cup. I'll get an aesthetic one someday. And I'm using the palette part of my Beamy gouache set because that's all I could find. Alright, I'm just going to swatch them out. I have high hopes for this Alizarin Crimson. I always see it in like color sets online, but I've never actually like bought it. It always looks pretty. Oh, that is going to annoy me. Nope, alright, that's just what I get. For gouache, a lot of times you'll add a little bit of water just to make it flow a little nicer. Let's try the yellow. I can see what the hype is about. This is a beautiful color of red. As I'm rinsing the brush off, I can feel this part here starting to come off, and I'm like instinctively like kind of shoving it in the water harder, which is going to be bad because it's going to bend my bristles. Oh, that's a dark one. What is this? Oh, it's a 3B. Okay. Oh, see? Oh my god. Okay. Alright, yeah, you can get some pretty good range with these. Well, I do like drawing faces, and our theme for the month is Face of Emotion. So I'm going to play around, and then I'm going to draw a face. I will say, as far as the brush goes, I like it. Except this part is super loose where it connects. And this is a weird design choice. I don't know why they intentionally made it look broken. I'm gonna let these dry, and then I'm gonna tape this down so it doesn't curl up on me like it's starting to do here. So I think that I'm going to not waste this nice paper. So I'm going to bring in my sketchbook and try drawing a couple of faces, see what sticks, and then I'll switch back to this in a little bit. voiceover Amanda here. Sorry about the audio at the beginning of this. I didn't realize that it was recording to my laptop microphone as opposed to my slightly nicer microphone, so it sounds a little bit like you're underwater. For this piece, I wanted to play around with textures, which I don't normally do. With gouache specifically, I usually just try to make it very smooth, but since the reference image was textured and beautiful, I thought it would be a fun time to experiment. I decided to do a pale blue for the skin, as opposed to a peachy or a brown color that I normally would have been drawn to, and I got very angry very fast at how many times the brush fell apart, and my little helper came and visited for a while. Oh. Alice is very tiny, but has the loudest meows, and even with the laptop microphone, it managed to pick her up. Next, I started to add some purples into the skin to add shadows and depth, and I blended them all in, added some more, blended them in again, and then I decided that everything was getting a little too saturated, so I decided to let it sit for a bit to dry, and then I came back later once everything was no longer soggy. I had fallen in love with the peachy color that they had used in the reference image for the skin, so I mixed a color up as close as I could and then started adding that in for the hair. So after the color was mixed, I began the process of filling in her hair, and then I made the decision to add a few of the peach blobs around her skin to add texture, and then I made the executive decision to add some green on her skin, and I regretted this decision immensely and immediately, and proceeded to try to cover it up. After that, I refined her face, added some refinement to the hair, and then added some more texturing. Around this time, I also had gotten fed up with my brush falling apart on me, so I grabbed whatever tape was nearest and I wrapped it up, and I had no more problems with it falling apart from there on out. I think it's because I didn't color the eyes in yet, but the more colorful strokes I added to the piece, the more it started to feel kind of like a corpse of sorts. I feel like that idea just got pushed more up until the point where I was able to color the eyes in, and then she looks quite lovely, I think, but there was a little bit where she was looking a little bit creepy. For the next one, I thought it would be fun to play with some of the greens, because I don't normally paint with green, so I decided to give her green skin and blue hair. This one was a struggle, and I'm not sure if it's because I had painted over the area with white gouache previously to mask the marker that had bled through, or if I was just getting tired, but this one was very rough. The sketch didn't go well, and the paint was in the ugly stage for a long time. Just kept having to redo areas, reblend them, redo them, reblend them. It took a long time to make it not look horrific. Something that I also struggled with this painting was the need to overwork it. I think just because it wasn't turning out how I wanted, I would just overwork it to death, and that just made it worse because I was trying to go for a looser, more textured style, and so by the end, when I was finally able to start adding in the giant blobs of color, I think that's what really helped it go from being kind of scary looking to looking decent. Alright, looks like everything's dry. As you can see off camera, I also drew some figs and a cute little goldfish. Overall, I like the colors of the first one better, but I like the texturing on the second one the best. So what I want to do for my final picture is to somehow combine these two into one. Now, because they gave us such nice paper, I don't want to use the other sheet for this because I want to use it later for something else. So I'm going to take the page that I swatched on and I'm gonna use that for my final drawing. And oh boy, it was a struggle. For whatever reason, I just could not get the profile of the face to look how I wanted. You'll see me throughout the painting process. I just didn't like her chin, and so I just kept having to rework it, redraw it, repaint it. By the end, I did finally get a profile image that I like, but it was such a struggle, and I definitely regret painting this in profile. I think doing a straight on or a 3/4 view would have probably yielded a better result, but I'd already done a couple of those. I wanted to do a profile to just round out the collection. Since I'd already decided that I wanted this final drawing to have my favorite color combination, I made a mint green skin tone for her, and I'm going to give her a very pale pink hair. And to start with, I had to lay down my layers of green paint. I definitely am not going about this in the smart way because it covers up all of my line work that I so strategically laid down. I worked so hard on the lines to get everything where I wanted it to be, and then I just painted over it and made it all disappear. I definitely was struggling with this one. By the time I was able to add a few of the outlines back in, I think that was when I started picking up steam, because having those guides back in place definitely helped. It helped me reorient myself, and I was able to paint a lot faster and have a lot more fun while painting. Once I was happy with my green layer, I started to add in the highlights, and then I started to add in the contrasting colors for the skin, most notably the pink blushies. Maybe it's because I love Wicked, but the combination of green and pink is just one of my favorite combos. And then I would go in with a cooler bluish green color and then start doing some of the shadows and start doing some of the shading. One of the reasons why I love gouache so much is it does reactivate with water, and since it reactivates with water, it makes it very easy to go back later and blend everything out, which can be annoying at times if you're happy with an area and you don't want the colors to reactivate. In that case, I would recommend using the acrylic gouache because it works like gouache, but once it dries, you can't reactivate it, so it acts like an acrylic paint in that regard. For this one in particular, I was very happy that stuff would reactivate so that I could reblend it, because it was a struggle. Have I said that enough times? While I impatiently waited for the hair to dry so that I could start adding in all the fun little textures, I would go back and revisit the skin, adding in some highlights, adding in some shadows, trying to blend things, trying to not blend them too much. It was a very fine balancing act. After laying down the pink for the hair, I had the horrible decision of trying to figure out what color to make the background. I struggled with that for a while because I was leaning towards blue, but then the yellow was just such a beautiful shade, and I thought it would contrast really well with the green and the pink, and after a long time of deliberation, I decided to go with the yellow. Now, something that I noticed about these paints is they are extremely pigmented and they go down very smooth and very flat. I've used gouache in the past that was very transparent, and so I like how this one was thick and opaque. Once I was mostly happy with the piece, I had to decide what I wanted to do for the foreground elements, and I was torn between using a flat black or a dark green, and I deliberated over this for a while before I finally settled on the dark green, made one leaf with it, decided it didn't have enough contrast, and went with the black, which I had wanted to do originally instead. And after realizing that I did not want the green on there, I had to go back in and touch up the areas and cover the green up with the skin and hair colors. After that, I did some general cleanup and added a few more detail lines, added a few flyaway hairs, and then moved on to finally committing to adding all the black foreground leaves. So after adding in the leaves, I went back and added a couple finishing details, did a few final touch-ups, a little bit of final highlighting, and then we were done. Overall, I think this is my favorite Scrawlrbox so far, and part of that is because it is my favorite art supply, and it was also a very good version of that art supply. I do highly recommend these tubes of gouache. They're very, very nice, very pigmented, very smooth, very opaque, which are 3 things I look for in a tube of paint. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the most unsatisfying tape peel known to man, and we'll see you next time. Bye!